Good afternoon. Welcome to our latest Milwaukee Press Club virtual newsmaker event. This one on the Milwaukee protest in the wake of the George Floyd situation in Minneapolis and what has gone on nationwide. We appreciate you joining us as we gather virtually. We can't do it in person, obviously, but we've been able to do events on very short notice, keep these newsmakers even more timely than they have been in the past. We appreciate everybody joining us today on WizEye and through Zoom and any other way that you're getting to see us. And we thank you, as always, for your continued support of the Milwaukee Press Club. If I didn't already do it, I'm the Press Club President, Gene Miller, and we have a virtual tip jar going at our website, MilwaukeePressClub.org. If you like what you're seeing and you want to continue our mission through what we do with the newsmaker events or with the other things that we do, including our endowment, just go to MilwaukeePressClub.org, and we'd appreciate any donation that you could give us. Thank you, as always. We also want to thank our sponsor, our presenting sponsor, Spectrum News One, as well as our sustaining sponsor, Miller Cause. Our event partner, as always, WizPolitics.com. We thank them and their sponsors, including UW Milwaukee, Wisconsin Academy of Global Education and Training, 1125 at Pabst, Milwaukee Police Association, the Firm Consulting, the Medical College of Wisconsin, and Spectrum. Our panel of journalists today: James Causey of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, Latoya Dennis of WUWM Milwaukee Public Radio, and Jeremy Janine of Urban Milwaukee. Our guests today, Khalil Coleman and Destiny Monet, organizers of the protest, which by Jeremy's count will be entering their 32nd consecutive day as of today. So without further ado, we'll have opening comments. Khalil, Destiny, feel free to give us a couple, 3-5 minutes on what's going on and why we are where we are, and then we'll lead off the questioning with James. So Destiny and Khalil, it's all yours.
Yeah, you want to start off? Okay. Yep. So thank y'all for inviting us. It is day 32. We have been organizing direct actions. Been looking at legislation throughout Milwaukee and Milwaukee County. We've been our goal has been to spread awareness, through Milwaukee and throughout the state about the issues that affect Black Lives Matter. We're part of the People's Movement Group, pretty much looking to agitate, educate, and organize for a better outcome. And it's been very organic, since day one, just people from all walks of life, ages, genders, sexuality, creed, have all participated in making this happen. Adam?
Yeah, I could. Can you repeat the question for me, please?
Just opening statements.
Yeah, did you have something you wanted to say, Destiny, before we start the question and answer?
Oh no, not at all.
We'll pitch it over to James.
Okay. Hey, guys, and Destiny, thanks for joining us. This is a very important topic. So one of the chants that we hear during the protests, marches over and over again is our calls for democracy. Khalil, can you talk about what democracy looks like for you?
A state of justice, of truth and fairness and equality for everybody. That's police officers not being the judge, the jury, and the executioner. That's the people being able to exercise their right to the First Amendment, which is the freedom of speech, press, assembly, and religion and others. So when I think of democracy, I'm thinking of a collective body of individuals who are challenging the government to be more just and fair in the world that we live in, and I understand that, when we look at America and when America was built and things like that, and when you look at the Declaration of Independence, it talks about how every 25 years, the Declaration should be rewritten, and I think that's democracy. I think our ability to be able to look at the state of the country and where we are and be able to make the changes that should be reflected of today. And that's what I think about democracy.
Destiny, do you want to say anything on that?
No, I'm fine. I'm just here listening.
So a follow-up question. Khalil, you mentioned how the protesters are made up are very diverse. You have young, Black and white, and members of the LGBT community. How were you able to bring so many people together, such a diverse people together for this cause and this movement at this time?
I mean, like I said, you know, just since day one, everything's been very organic. You know, I think, you know, our first walk, you know, within our first week, it was just people who just showed up. You know, nothing really targeted towards any demographics of people. You know, just people. I think everybody's seen the George Floyd video and the tug at their heartstrings, and you know, and I think that's really what brought everybody together. It wasn't, you know, like a one call to, you know, to different groups and saying, hey, y'all, we all need to come together. You know, we all need to collaborate. It was just people, you know, it was just people who felt something needed to be done and they didn't know how to really do it. So everybody just marched. And that's what's been sustaining for the last 32 days. You know, and even though there's different subgroups now and people doing different events and things now, I think for the most part, people are just wanting to come together underneath the banner of justice, and regardless of who or what those individuals are, you know what I'm saying? I think everybody can agree that that they want to see a change in the system. They want to see a change in democracy.
Thank you.
So you mentioned the catalyst for all of this being, you know, that George Floyd video. But I wonder locally, what sorts of things are you guys wanting to change?
Destiny?
So first, I know a lot of people have been saying we've been spending a lot of time in Wauwatosa, and it's with intention. It was an officer by the name of, what was his name again? I try not to say it as
Joseph
much.
Mensah.
Yeah, Joseph. He killed 3 different people within the span of 5 years. And that's one thing we want to address. We don't believe that he should still be on the police force. So that's one thing that has been a major concern.
You know, in addition to that, you know, Joel Acevedo family, you know, of course, the Cole family, the Anderson family, and Antonio Gonzalez. Those were the 3 ones that Joseph Mensah killed in Wauwatosa. But then, of course, we have our issues in Milwaukee. We have our issues in the surrounding county as well. You know, so of course, you know, one thing is police accountability, right? Holding police accountable when they violate standard operating procedures, holding police accountable, you know, when they murder someone. You know, that's a goal. It shouldn't be a goal, but that's a goal that the people want. The people want to see police officers held accountable, you know, be put on trial and go through fair sentencing just like everybody else. So that's one thing. I think the other thing that we want to see is we want to see change in legislation, you know, direct legislation that holds police officers accountable, that makes it a crime if a police officer violates the standard operating procedures, if a police officer violates not wearing his body camera or choosing to cut off his body camera, right? If you do a no-knock warrant and laws say that you're not supposed to do a no-knock warrant. We need laws that will hold police officers accountable from a criminal standpoint. And that's another thing that we want to see change.
I'm going to jump in here with one more follow-up because you just mentioned a number of things that last week the Equity and Inclusion Commission in Wauwatosa approved and agreed to pass on to the Common Council there. I guess I'm asking, like, do you see that as a win right now?
I mean, it's not a win yet. It was a small victory to be able to have, you know, that committee support the demands of what the people want the Common Council to put into law. But that's only one part. The second part is today. You know, today we're back out there. It's the Common Council meeting, and this is when we want to see this put into law. You know, and that would be a win. You know, but right now it's just a suggestion. We understand that they're just suggestions, but it's still critically important that those suggestions was drafted to even put on the table of the Common Council, so we can at least have progress and some type of transparency, you know, for when that do go on the table, you know, we can see what the elected officials vote for and what they stand for when it comes to the community.
I want to talk a bit about change directions, just a little, talk a bit about what the protests look and feel like. For the people that haven't been out yet, they should know that you two are by far the highest energy people out there. Khalil, you're running around with a bullhorn. Destiny, you're in front leading chant after chant. I've been there about half the days. You're on day 32 now. How are you able to keep going? What should people expect when they see you? What can they know about how they can support you? What do you need?
You want to talk first?
Yeah, so pretty much we're keeping high energy, and like, what do you feel? You're gonna feel our energy, and then you're gonna also feel our love. You always feel the love and support when you're out. And then it's like my energy when I'm chanting, everything sounds like music to me for one. And I know that music is one thing that brings a lot of people together. So I know if I'm chanting and I put some rhythm to it, a lot of people will be able to have fun and enjoy themselves versus just shouting callbacks, you know? And then it's like not only that, but then we have that family vibe to where someone is always checking on you, someone is always looking out for you. Someone is going to ask you like, are you okay? Are you fine? Are you tired? What's up? Do you need to be pumped? So it's a lot of support amongst the people that are in the protest as well. So if you're having a bad day, you can shout out whatever chance we're shouting to get that frustration out. But then you're also going to feel the love and compassion as well.
You know, and I think it's important to like add, you know, we are in day 32, and again, like there have been other individuals who have been creating marches and events and things like that. But I think it's important for people to know which protest they're participating in. You know, because one thing for sure since day one, you know, we are very responsible for the people. You know, so when it comes to traffic control and controlling the traffic up ahead and in the back, when it comes to making sure that the people involved in the protest are people who are not trying to antagonize the protest, right, and infiltrate the protest and do things that go against our message. You know, when it talks about messaging and demands and things like that, it's very critical to be distinguished between the various of different groups that's starting to emerge now. And I think one thing that people look for when they come to the protest, they look for that, right? They look for that structure. They look for that voice. They look for that energy. They look for that fire, right? And they also look for those direct actions. You know, people join the protest, people join the movement for those direct actions, you know, for those direct results. And that's why we've been so effective at this for the past 32 days, is because we have learned the strategy of organizing from a protest standpoint, from a civil unrest standpoint.
James, I'll pass it to you.
Okay, so let's stick with the protest for a minute. During the Sherman Park unrest in 2016, the police didn't use tear gas, they didn't use smoke or rubber bullets on the crowds, but this time they had. What changed other than the fact that they're doing it? Why? And do you think that's inciting the protesters to be more aggressive? I just want you to talk about that a little bit.
I say yes and no. Because like naturally, if you're coming peaceful and you see a group of police with riot gear, ready to shoot you, it first is confusion, and you will see it like, I thought we were here peaceful, and they see a group of people who are ready to go to war. So first it's confusion, but then what I like is that we always make sure we're on one accord. So it's like you always kind of bumping shoulders with someone like, so what's next? And it's not necessary. But then the fact that it's happening, we're getting even more support. Who people they didn't realize Black Lives Matter until they had to see us be tear gassed and maced. And that brought people out to check on us or to want to be helpful. Like, I'm not going to march with you. I don't feel comfortable, but then here's my assistance. Here's my aid with you with that.
Yep. You know, and I would probably say, you know, the difference between the Sherman Park unrest and what's happening now all over the country is, you know, I think they tried to box the Sherman unrest as just a Sherman Park event, right? You know, oh, that's just something with the Sherman Park community, et cetera, right? But with this, it's not, right? This is a whole city, right? A whole state action, right? And you can't just classify that and just say, oh, what I said is one demographic of the community, or that's just one demographic of race. and you're starting to see so many people, even the suburban surrounding areas of Milwaukee, are also participating in the direct actions. That's what makes it so different, right? You're starting to see people who never protested before protesting, participating. And I think that's one of the things that when the first week was going on, when the tear gas and the rubber bullets and stuff was happening, it was all of that. It was the unrest and the protest together, right? During the Sherman Park unrest, it was just the unrest. But during this movement, during the first week, it was all of that together. And I think that's what created the greatest fear. And I think that's what brought the tear gas and the rubber bullets.
Yeah. A quick follow-up. So, everybody's talking about defunding the police department. And this comes at a time when the Milwaukee Police Department is seeking a 6% increase to their budget. So something has to give here. And what if the police department is defunded by, say, 10% or so, where should those funds go? And do you think the police department can still do their jobs after suffering a 10% cut to their budget?
I mean, every year the police department budget, for the most part, has been increased, and we haven't seen a decrease in crime. We haven't seen a decrease in conflict resolution. You know what I'm saying? When it comes down to tension we haven't seen an increase in conflict resolution when it comes down to tension with citizens and the police. We understand as a people that more money in policing does not equal more solutions. And I think when we talk about where should that money be redirected, we had another victory where we was able to defund the police out of Milwaukee Public Schools. That's a small victory, right? The money that police departments are getting to operating school systems are money that can go towards social workers and counselors for emotional behavioral learning, right? Or that can go to conflict resolution classes inside of the school to teach young people how to deal with conflict, how to resolve their issues through peer mediation. That's where the money can go. Because we understand the police officers in school, and I'm not even sure what's going on with the board down, but about 2 years ago, we was all on the City of Milwaukee Committee for Restorative Justice, and one of the things that we have found out was that almost 70% of all municipal courts are juveniles, and they're getting in these tickets inside of the school system. Small truancy tickets, marijuana tickets, et cetera, et cetera. But what's happening is they're not paying them, right? Because most of the time these young people aren't working. So they're not paying the tickets. These tickets are turning into warrants, and more people are entering into the criminal justice system because of the lack of alternatives to deal with these issues other than policing. So when we saying defund the police, yeah, we not just take the money away, but invest the money into more proactive programs such as violence prevention, right? Things that where the police are called after the fact, right? Put the money in that before the police even have to be called. And I think that's where the solutions and that's where the money should be going.
I agree.
Latoya?
All right, I'm going to switch gears here a little bit again, and I want to go back to something that you mentioned earlier. You said that one of the things that makes this protest different from what we've seen in the past is the fact that this isn't just a Black thing, right? You're seeing all ethnicities, all races out there. I've seen signs and I've heard people say white people protect us, right? I've seen a lot of white people on the front lines of this. And I'm wondering, how important is that for you guys?
It's very important. It's very important to have allies supporting Black lives. When we talk about what's needed, it's needed for allies to put their lives on the line. It's needed for allies. We all seen what happened to George Floyd, and we all was concerned because the biggest question was, how come nobody else did nothing, right? Not just the police, which is bad enough, right? Police officers should have pulled off the cop who was murdering George Floyd. So we see these things happen even with the Joel Acevedo case, right? Joel's at a party, somebody's choking him out, police are called, police are watching an individual kill a man, right? That's a problem. But the biggest issue is when we see these things and not doing anything about it, and when we talk about white people being able to talk to white people about racism, about injustice, right? Going back home, talking to your friends, your family about the things that's affecting Black lives is critical to the movement. And without that, it would just be a Black thing, right? And the thing is, yes, Black lives matter, but it's not just a Black thing, because when Black lives are affected, all lives are affected. So when they say all lives matter, we always say Black lives matter and all lives can't matter until Black lives matter. But it's the same thing. When Black lives are affected, all lives are affected. So it's critical to have our brown brothers and sisters join us in the movement. It's critical to have our white brothers and sisters join us in the movement, because we all need to take face in changing the system that we live in.
Jeremy?
All right, I have a question for the two of you. What is it going to be that is the driving force to say, I can stay home tonight, I don't need to be marching anymore?
Destiny, what do you think?
Pretty much once we get all of our demands met, or at least majority. Like, it's a lot of times people are putting numbers on it, and if like people are saying 201 days, and it's like, why do 201 days if we're not sure if that'll be necessary? So I honestly just feel like once enough is enough. Once we reach pretty much everything that we need, everything we're asking for, once we come to an agreement, then we can finally take a rest. But until then, no justice, no peace.
Yeah. Yep, I agree with
that.
Destiny.
Do you think you'll need to go 201 days to beat the 1967 marches?
I don't know. What you think?
I don't know. I know they was marching for the fair housing, for the right to fair housing during that time. I think our justice fight is a lot more broader now. I think I think the strategies are a lot more broader now. Are we trying to beat a record? No, we're not trying to beat a record. You know what I'm saying? This is not about beating a record of days march. It's really about doing what we need to do to get the changes that we need to get. So I encourage people to stay on the front line. I encourage people to walk it out. We didn't get in this condition overnight. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to get out of this condition in 30 days. We're not going to get out of this condition in 201 days. You know what I'm saying? But whether we're marching or not marching, the demand in the power of the people should never change. We have to begin to not just walk it out, but we have to begin to find ways of taking this energy, the same energy, to our local common council meetings, to our local county executive meetings, to our state capital, Madison, Wisconsin, and bringing the protest there, right? Because it's all an act of justice. It's all an act of, this is what we want, and this is what we need in order to get it. And here's the demand behind it, which is the people. So I think the moment people cease to feel there's a need to still take to the street, I think that's the moment that we'll be back at square one, fighting the same fight that we've been trying to fight for hundreds of years, just being in America as Black, brown, and whites, and we all need to change that, and if we're going to change that, then we need to continue to do things that are unorthodox, and and challenge our democracy, and challenge our First Amendment, and I think we all need to read more on the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence talks about how the people have the right to either alter or abolish the government. It says that in the Declaration of Independence. So when we really look at the government, it says, like, it talks about how the people is the government. So when we're looking at a new America, if we're talking about a new America, as we then said, the new Milwaukee, but it's bigger than the new Milwaukee, right? We're really looking for a new America. And if we're talking about a new America, then we must begin to look at the laws that founded this country and change those laws that still exist that keep Black lives at the bottom of the pole.
James?
Yeah, so I have a couple of questions. Like one is a question that I'm hearing from MPD, and they're saying, look, we understand what you're saying, but at the same time, homicides are up 120% from this time, from right now compared to this time last year. And, I guess we don't understand what you want police officers to do. So, if we have homicides on a record pace right now, and that's bad for all of us, and then you have officers being criticized for what they do, officers feel like they're caught in this web, but like, what do we do then? I mean, we're looked at as the bad guys right now. Is there anything we could do right now to have you guys understand our plight? So what do you say to someone like that?
That's how Black people felt in America since the beginning of time. Black people have always felt like that. When you look at the policing system and how it was founded off of the idea of slave catchers. And Black people have always felt like that. And this is no knock to police, and this is no knock to the government. But we have to treat the people, the lowest of the lowest of the people, with respect and with dignity. And I think what has happened over time is, Black people back has been against the wall for the longest. The conditions have been poor, have been traumatic, and it have caused the community to rob, to steal, and to destroy. But when we're really looking at the root of it, I don't like to mix the Black on Black violence with police injustice, because I feel those are two separate causes. I feel like, what I'm saying, yes, we have issues within our community that needs to be addressed, but who needs to address them? We need to address them as a community, and those who is accountable for our government need to find new ways of doing things. If you're putting, millions of dollars and you're increasing the police budget every year and changes are not happening, then whose fault is that? I think it's time for us to start looking at new strategies. And when we're saying defund the police and put that money back into the community. Allow the community to rebuild. Let's put Black businesses back into the community. Let's do things like that so people can have a sense of pride in where they live. Because when people own the neighborhood that they live in, they're less likely to tear it down and to destroy it, because they got something to look forward to. They got something to go home to. So I think that's where we need to separate the two causes. Because when we're talking about holding the system accountable, we're talking about the whole government, right? We're talking about the whole system. When we talk about Black on Black violence, we're not talking about a whole race of people. We're talking about selected individuals within the race. So we can't pin Black on Black violence as a whole race for the Black community. And why y'all talking about justice when you need to be talking about that? Those are a few selected individuals inside of the community. But when we talk about injustice, that's the whole system that we're talking about. And that's the difference.
In a way, I explain that too, because I get this question a lot as a journalist, especially a journalist of color. What I tend to tell people is that if a person kills another person, they go to trial, they usually go to prison or whatever happens. However, when a police officer does the same thing, it doesn't come out the same way.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So I guess my second question is this. I was watching Sheriff Ernell Lucas on the news last night, and he was saying, or he suggested, that we need to get more people of color on the police and in law enforcement. People of color in law enforcement will change the system by changing it from within, or do you think the system is just too corrupt to change?
Destiny.
I think that's a great idea. Like when you're familiar with who's policing your community, it makes it better because you're building relationships versus just coming out and dictating what's going on. And it's when you got people from your own community, they're familiar with the issues and they know what's more important. They know, like, they pretty much prioritize versus seeing that everything is wrong. They won't think that you just driving down the street is wrong. They won't just pull you over for that. So it's like, if you look like me, you understand my background, you would know how to handle me. So when it's police coming from different areas, it's like, why aren't you policing that community? And then it's like your attitude towards this community is so different because you don't understand it. So you wouldn't know how to address it. You want to add?
No, I think Destiny said it perfect.
So I have a couple questions. One is a follow-up to that. So I guess in saying that, what has been the experience then in Milwaukee when it comes to Black police officers? If it's as simple as, you know, having more officers of color on a police force, what have you guys experienced or what have you heard about people experiencing when it comes to Black police officers in Milwaukee?
Well, we know Dominique Hagen was Black and he killed Seville Smith. You know what I'm saying? It's not about race. It's about the system of policing. You know what I'm saying? And yes, we want more people of color because hopefully, right, they will understand the Black plight of the community that they're serving, right? That's why we want Black police officers inside the community. However, it doesn't take away from the fact that once you become a cop, and if you do something that goes against the laws, you should still be held accountable, like, period. It doesn't make a difference of your race. So we can't pin race as a solution to holding police officers accountable. More Black cops will not give us justice. It just gives us diversity within the community that they serve in. But justice is real laws, real accountability for when police officers do things that they should not do. Like in Wauwatosa, they're talking about body cams. We was out there. We asked them, what is your current standard operating procedures of body cameras? They have none. That's a problem. That's a problem that there's nothing written in paper or in the statutes of the policies that hold police accountable for when they turn off their body camera. It's too much discretion when it comes down to policing. And that's where we're trying to put more things in place to eliminate discretion, because discretion gives me the right to be the judge, the jury, and the executioner. That's what gives a police officer that right. And that's what we're trying to change.
Have you had the opportunity to speak with Chief Morales? And if not, if you had that opportunity, what would you ask? What would you say?
We have not had the opportunity to speak with the chief yet. You know, I know we're originally meeting the chief. We thought that it would be a good fit for the Black and the brown community. Unfortunately, the community feels different now. The community wants Chief Morales to step down. They feel like when you are chief, we feel like when you are chief, you have to make executive decisions that are unpopular. You have to make executive decisions that are for the best interests of the community. It is not in the best interest of the community to keep a cop when there are uprisings happening inside of your community because you want to protect the blue code, right? When you know that, hey, you know, this cop broke the standard operating procedure. He should be fired. This cop wasn't on duty when he killed Joel Acevedo. He should be arrested and charged. That's why people have a problem with the government as it is right now. Because who gives them the right to be higher than the government? If the laws are for justice and fairness for all, then how come it don't apply to those who's supposed to protect and serve us at the same time? That's what you want to say something to that?
No, that was perfect. That was perfect.
We're still in the middle of a pandemic. What are you guys seeing? How does that impact getting your message out? How are you personally protecting yourselves? How's that playing into the protests?
so initially with the pandemic, a lot of people were out. We wear masks, but I feel like the pandemic is what brought more people out because it's like we're tired of being in the house. We want to stand for something, and then it was like also a rebellion thing too.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people wanted to be out, so it's like the pandemic hasn't stopped anything, and then seeing so many people protest and they aren't sick, and it's because we wear our mask and because we have hand sanitizer and because we do all these things. It's like, okay, so maybe I can come out. Like the first week, it was phenomenal. The next week, people were still coming out. And it was like, now, once the second week came, I didn't think it was a rebellion with the pandemic. I think it was more so I have to be there.
As a follow-up to that, then, if someone feels uncomfortable joining you on the streets, if you could ask them to do one thing, what are you asking them to do?
If they couldn't join, even if they didn't want to drop off any donation, if you see any post on social media that sheds positive light on what we're doing, share it, like it, and get it out to people. Because it's a lot of things that been going on. It's always been a negative that's been highlighted. If we can change the narrative and say, okay, yeah, that one incident happened, but 10 great things happen. And if you see it on your timeline, don't share the negative, share the positive, because it should outshadow that.
James?
I have a couple of questions. For one, I was wondering if Khalil could talk about the trauma of interaction with a police officer, what it feels like when you're stopped by a police officer. Because I'm sure that, I've been stopped a number of times, and when you see the blue and red lights flashing in your rearview mirror, I mean, all kinds of things pop in your head. Can you explain that feels like and the trauma that is on a person when you're constantly having negative interactions with police?
Yeah. Where was we coming from last night? Yeah, we was coming from Botanas and we ended up getting off the highway in Bayshore. And we made the wrong turn. And we pulled in the gas station and turned back around, and the police seen us, pulled in the gas station behind us, and we had to go through a residential block in Bayshore just to turn back around and make it and get back to the highway. The police followed us the whole time through the whole neighborhood until we got back out of that neighborhood, until we made it back over there on the main street, headed back towards the highway. That's a problem. I feel unsafe. I feel like my life is in danger. You know what I'm saying? Like when I'm stopped by a police officer, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not teaching my son to put your hands up in the air, you know what I'm saying, and all of that. I shouldn't have to. I should be able to be a normal human being and talk. Hi, how you doing, officer? Is everything all right? Why you stop me without me having to feel like I'm already a prisoner without being a prisoner? It's trauma. You know what I'm saying? And it creates fear within the community, where there should be no fear when you see the police. It should be like, oh, okay, here come the police. You know what I'm saying? They trying to do the good thing, not, oh, here come the police. They on some bull. That's what it feel like to be Black and to be in America and to be underneath a over police system, an over police community, an over police race of people. That's how it feels. It feels like they always got a foot on your neck. It feels like at any moment, you know what I'm saying, they can, at any moment, there's a chance of it going from 0 to 100 at any moment. No matter how polite you are, no matter what you did or did not do, your job is to arrest the person and take them to jail. Not be the judge, the jury, and the executioner. But today, we all feel like the police have the right to be the judge, the jury, and the executioner. They can murder you in the street and get away with it. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Like I said, I've been stopped more than a dozen times, and every single time I've been stopped, it's that fear is unbelievable, and I don't think a lot of people understand the fear that you go through when that happens to you. I guess my follow-up question is this: the mayor said that he wanted this officer in the Joel Escovedo case fired. He talked to the police chief, wanted them fired. The police chief said he talked to the Fire and Police Commission. They're doing all this investigations and all this kind of stuff. But you see in other cities where officers are just fired right away when something goes bad. Why is it so hard here in this city to fire bad officers?
I mean, when Dontre Hamilton got killed and when we stomped the streets for Dontre Hamilton, for 4 months, their family didn't hear from the mayor or the chief. They begged for justice in that Red Arrow Park for 4 months without a phone call. It wasn't until we went with the family and started protesting and shutting down the streets, shutting down First District, shutting down the courthouse, shutting down this, right? It wasn't until we started doing that they started to hear the family. And the thing is, when we did that, that's when Chief Flynn decided to fire Christopher Manning. It wasn't until then they didn't fire Christopher Manning until the people got involved. There has to be a demand. But the thing is, that's all politics, because the mayor hires the chief or has the right to remove the chief if you really want to, right? The Fire and Police Commission has the same authority. So when we talk about a simple directive as, hey, fire this cop, that's a simple directive that can be done. So for it not to be done, and then for the Fire and Police Commission to not hold the chief accountable, or for the mayor to not hold the chief accountable, is politics. And everybody see through it. And everybody feel it's a PR stunt. And that's the problem that people have when we talk about transparency in the government. Because some of these body cams are active and they on, but they're not being released to the public into months, sometimes a whole year. What is the purpose of the people paying taxes on body cams, or the police budget increasing because they got to get more body cams or they need more stuff, right? But when they get the stuff, they're not using the stuff with transparency. That's a problem in policing. And that's a problem in America, because this is policing all over America where these things happen. So I forgot what the question was. I seem like I just kind of shift to something else.
No, I think you touched on it, but can I just get it one more question in? And this is just to lighten the tone a little bit. You're featured on a mural along with Marquesa Tucker, Frank Nitti, Vaughn Mays, and others. I mean, how do you feel about that? That people are putting you on murals around the city right now?
Man, I want justice. I ain't even gonna lie, my good brother James. I want justice. You know, I feel like, I'm thankful, man, for whoever feel like, hey, man, these are our leaders. But James, I've been fighting this fight for a long time, man. I've fought for individuals before people knew about it. You know what I'm saying? This isn't like a overnight thing. This has been a long fight, man. Since Darius Simmons, the 13-year-old boy killed on the South Side by John Spooner after talking to the alderman Bob Donovan.
I remember that.
And Bob Donovan told him, take the matters in your own hand. And John Spooner killed Darius Simmons in front of his mama. And they arrested his mama, and they arrested Darius Simmons' mama and brother because they was crying in the street. They arrested them and let John Spooner walk all inside his house, bring things out his house. Come on, man. People don't know about the long history fight that people even before me was fighting. So this ain't no overnight thing. The whole mural thing, if they think that's the way to say, oh yeah, I'm glad, I'm satisfied, I didn't reach my, no. You know what I'm saying? It's beautiful. I think it should be more art through the city, of more leaders, of more victims, of more quotes, of more sayings. So that's what I feel about it. But is that like something where I'm like, yeah, I'm good. That's something I want. No, I want justice, brother.
I love it.
I want accountability.
I want to go back to something that you said earlier. You talked about communities being over-policed. And I'm wondering what you say to some people who live in those communities who say that I only feel safe with such a strong police presence, right? Like we want them here. What do you say to them?
Destiny, what would you say?
We don't have the same experience. We don't. I can even reflect on the situation that happened on 40th. When it was just a few police officers in a community were policing their own community, it was more unity. It was loud, it was shouting, but it was unity. It wasn't until they seen more police to where they got more rowdy. So it's like once the police kind of backed off, they kind of chilled and kind of laxed a little bit. But it's like once they see like they're increasing in numbers, it changes the tone. And then it's like when you decrease, okay, they're chill again. But then you bring them back out in riot gear, so it's like I can tell no one felt comfortable with them there. So I feel like people who are comfortable with police around is because they don't feel threatened by police and they don't look like a threat to police. So if you're in a community where your police actually protect and serve you, you can say that. But until you know someone who has been killed or know someone who has been killed by the police or taunted by the police or just victimized by the police, then you will not feel that way.
Khalil, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think Destiny hit it on the spot. I think our experiences is what defines how we view policing in our community. And maybe policing needs to look different in different communities. Maybe some communities want that, but the thing is, the communities who say that, they don't have over policing. They know who their police officers are too. They know their names. We don't. We got people coming from Wauwatosa, Shorewood, Whitefish Bay, you know what I'm saying, coming to Milwaukee to police us. They don't live with the community. They don't shop with the community. They don't go to their children don't go to the same schools as my children go to in the community. It's a difference. So, that's where the whole, trying to get more people of color, the more diversity, you know what I'm saying? But we got to bring back the residency clause. If you're not from Milwaukee, you can't police in Milwaukee.
So do you think, with that being said, do you think these things are better when the Milwaukee police officers had to live in Milwaukee? Because it hasn't been that long ago that changed.
Yeah, the reason why they changed it because they was trying to say that things was unsafe for police officers. This was during a time when the Derek Williams protests and stuff was going on, and you know what I'm saying, all of that. It was a diversion, to pretty much trying to protect police officers' lives. But the thing is, like, that's where the accountability start at. Because if you live in a community where you got a police, you're gonna do things a little bit different, right? Instead of coming into a community where you don't have no accountability, you do what you want, and then you go back to your neighborhood and the community don't see you. That's the problem. We need people from our community that walks with us, talks with us, shop with us, go to school with us, right? So we can have that accountability with them. Hey man, you live with us. You can't do this. That's not right. Hey man, the little people over there on that block. Instead of arresting them, go walk over there and talk to them. That's community policing. That's what we want to see.
So you would say again then that police-community relations were better when police officers had to live in Milwaukee. You see a distinct difference.
I mean, I can't really reflect on the difference, but I think that that's what's needed. I think that if police officers lived in the communities where they serve, because that's what they do in other communities, they live there. But why not Milwaukee? Why not Milwaukee? So, Milwaukee needs to reflect a police district of officers who live where they teach. Who live where they police. That's what needs to happen. Like, you can't be the governor of Wisconsin if you don't live in Wisconsin. You can't be the mayor of Milwaukee if you don't live in Milwaukee. You can't be an alderman of a district if you don't live in that district. You have to reside in that district. So why do police get a chance to police our community, but they don't have to live where they police? Everything needs to have the same transparency and the same accountability.
We're 32 days in. You said it's going to be a long haul. This doesn't change overnight. But think about the next 32 days. What are they going to hold? And I ask this because watching you guys firsthand, you've gotten a lot more organized on the ground over those first couple of weeks. Your traffic control evolved greatly. your chants or evolve greatly, your messaging evolve greatly. What do the next 32 days look like?
The next 32 days, and Destiny can chime in, you know, and things that she have lined up for the group and for the movement. But the next 32 days is gonna really be looking at channeling some of this momentum and some of this energy into real demands and legislation. You know, keeping the momentum. The next 32 days, it'll still be nice outside, so we still want to continue to take to the streets. Sometimes we do it in traffic and caravan only, just to preserve the people, and to preserve the movement long term. But we really want to start looking at turning this movement into a real lobby push. Looking to do some lobbying around some legislation with some state representatives, with some, local common council representatives and, county executives. These are the things that we want to move forward to within the next month or two. Destiny?
Yeah, so along, like attached to that, we also want to have just people who just want to be involved. They just want to come and they want to be involved, because it's a lot of people who I ask, like, so do you want to, like, what do you want to do? And they're like, I'm just a regular protester. And that's really their exact answer. So if we give them things that they can be a part of, like, for example, I know the church, they want to be involved, but it's like, how do we get what we do to be a part of what you do? So on the 4th, we're going to do pretty much a praise break. So it's like we have to have everybody involved. Even if we are going to have the politicians there, we also need regular people who can find themselves valuable.
Guys, I'm going to hop in here. We're almost up for the hour. I did have one follow-up question from the audience. Khalil, when you were talking about the chief and the Acevedo situation and the officer involved in that, if we understood right, or if I heard it right, you want the dismissal of the police officer involved in the Acevedo case. Are you also saying that the chief of police should be ousted, that he should be gone?
That's what the community wants. Yes, that's what the community wants. The community wants the chief to resign. The community feel that there's a lack of accountability within, the chief leadership, and the community and the family is asking for the chief to resign. There's supposedly some a lot of gray area that happened between Joel and things of that nature. And I don't want to speak on it because I'm not an attorney. But there's even calls for the police officers who responded to the call to be terminated and arrested and charged as well. And that's what the request is. That's what people are asking for, and that's what the conversation would be.
And Khalil, one other question, viewer, someone who's looking in wants to know, in terms of the residency requirement and having officers back in the neighborhoods, this viewer is pointing out that the Milwaukee Police Union fought the residency requirement. What is the role in all of this of the Milwaukee Police Union as you see it?
Oh, always critical. The police union backs the police officers, right or wrong. It is critical to protecting police officers, good cops and bad cops. And their need, I don't know what the accountability looks like with inside of a union. I don't know if there is any accountability inside of a union. But there needs to, but we understand that the police union is a very critical factor in protecting the bad apples. And I'm not sure what needs to happen at this time, at this moment. I remember the Derek Williams case, and the police union was a very strong supporter of the police officers that was involved in the murder of Derek Williams. And all of those cops went up there and they pleaded the fifth, and none of them had to answer any questions. And when the charges was presented, to the jury was looking for murder charges. Those charges was never presented. They was told to only come up with a verdict for failure to render aid, and the cops were all convicted with failure to render aid. But what happened after that? Nobody, like, what happened after that? you know. And these same cops, this was during the time when the strip search was going on, and remember that big thing that was going on with the lawsuits when the police was digging in young men anals looking for drugs. And what happened with all of this? What happened? Feds then came in and did investigation after investigation after investigation on Milwaukee Police Department. But what happens? Nothing but a bunch of recommendations ever come out of all of this stuff. Recommendation after recommendation after recommendation, maybe a resolution or two, but no state laws for criminal policing. That's what we need to have on the books, because that's what will hold the police officers accountable. Because after that, other than that, once you put on that badge, you're above the law. That's how people feel.
Khalil, Destiny, thank you so much for your time and for your insight. I hope that we can call on you again, because this will remain a story certainly for the months and weeks and maybe even years ahead. We hope we can keep track of you and call on you again.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all. Take care.
Thank you. And we also want to thank our panelists, James Causey of the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, Latoya Dennis of WUWM Milwaukee Public Radio, and Jeremy Janine of Urban Milwaukee. Great job by one and all. Thanks to our sponsors, Spectrum News 1 and Miller Koss, and also our event partner, WizPolitics.com, and their sponsors, including UW Milwaukee, the Wisconsin Academy of Global Education and Training, 1125 at PAPS, the Milwaukee Police Association, the Firm Consulting, the Medical College of Wisconsin, and Spectrum. We have another newsmaker coming up. We're going to pivot quick. We'll be back Wednesday at noon. Another virtual newsmaker, this one with baseball writer Tom Hardercourt. He's been on the Brewers beat for the Journal Sentinel seemingly since Abner Doubleday. Well, not quite that long, but he knows what he's talking about. Baseball supposedly is coming back. The Brewers reporting to Miller Park Saturday for spring training 2.0, and baseball will be just a few weeks away. We shall see if that happens. Tom has strong thoughts. He also has a new book on the first 50 years of Brewers baseball. So please go to MilwaukeePressClub.org, sign up and register for that event. That'll be at noon, Wednesday, July 1st. And while you're at our website, if you are so inclined, please support our mission if you can with a contribution, as these interesting times mean interesting budget dilemmas for all organizations, all nonprofits. We are one, and we would appreciate your support in any way, shape, or form. I'm Gene Miller, your Milwaukee Press Club president. Thanks again to all of our participants. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you Wednesday, July 1st with Tom Hardercourt. Have a good day.